Hello and welcome to the Doctor's Corner. I'm your host as always, Dr. Mark Pinsky, and today once again we brought back Mark McCoy. You may remember, Mark is the Vice President of the United Trainers Association and an affiliate of Pinsky Family and Sports Medicine Center. He is our consult when it comes to weight management and aging prevention, I would say, right? Yep. Mark, and welcome back to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
All right, last time Mark and I got together, we decided we were going to talk about an approach that we like to use towards healthcare. And what we talked about was the processes that we often use. Mm-hmm. So we talked about testing, balancing, feeding, and moving. So just give us a little test of each, little statement about each one of those so that we can recap so people can get caught up.
Yeah, easy. So this is just a difference between the proactive and reactive side of healthcare. And the foundation up approach, which is what we went over in that last video, is very adamant about making sure that we get numbers on someone so we know what the ideal goal body weight is, what their ideal energy levels are going to come from stages as we move up. So step one is testing so that we know that we can track and trend. So step two takes us into rebalancing. And when you rebalance someone, and we all took that high school biology class that talked about homeostasis, when your body is as balanced as when you're 18 to 20 years old, you have more energy, you have amazing immune function, you have great tonality, you have less body fat, you have a quality and zest of life. That balance allows nutrition to work in your body as if you're in younger years. So when we move to step three, which is the nutrition, we now have the ability to set the ideal macro counts in your nutrition numbers based on the ideal goal weight. You always hydrate the body you have and you feed the body you want. And so that process of test, balance, feed is prep that person to be in their early 20s. So when they begin to move and they start to exercise or do something, they have an exponentially faster result and it's sustainable.
Right. All right. So let's build from there. Okay. Let's redo or re-go over that approach, because I think it's really critical. You started to do it there a little bit. Talk about the proactive versus reactive.
Right.
Foundation up, foundation down.
Right. And you know how we always say in life, we say perception is reality. And really it's perspective is everything. It's what viewpoint are you looking at something? And that foundation up approach in proactive healthcare is a step-by-step procedure, not approaching something from the symptoms down, which is reactive medicine in healthcare today, is more, I guess, described as sick care. Right. And so if you take the evidence that we have out there in certain areas, you just look at the fact that healthcare costs are averaging around $18,000 a year for someone over the age of 65. That is an average. So would you rather not be sick, be well, or would you rather manage your sickness? So the foundation up approach is that step-by-step process by which you are taking away the baseline variables that could be contributing without making any medical claims in the proactive side. We're legitimately saying take your daily habits and reevaluate them to a benchmark of optimal. And if I have the benchmark of optimal, I then know what I'm responsible for to remove those little variables so that if something was still awry, the medical professional can easier identify what's really going on because there wasn't a myriad of possibilities. It is narrowed down significantly. And hopefully the reactive and proactive side are all meeting in the middle and you have the greatest chance of the highest quality of life possible because you are handling all the pieces.
Right. So that's pretty much what my philosophy is. Yep. You know that. That's one of the
reasons.
That's why we work together very well. There's never been an issue regarding that because, when I see patients, the goal to that is, of course, I treat disease, but the goal is to really take patients during a thorough wellness examination and try to identify risk factors of which they will have to develop disease.
Yes.
Well, in that entire process, one of the things that we do is we try to assess what people are doing in their life. How are they eating? Are they moving? Are they exercising? How can we reduce, based on science, how can we really reduce?
Yes.
So what do you think the impact of the proactive approach is?
Well, let's take this as base it off a statement you gave me once before. And it was an observation you said you had made in younger years in med school and different things. And I remembered it to this day. It was probably like 5 years ago. We were talking about this. And guys, you'll love this, how his mind was going. That he was saying he noticed that people came in and they had symptoms. But a lot of the doctors he was talking to never asked how much water someone drank, right, how much they ate in a day of certain types of foods, or if they even ate at all. And you're asking, like, what is the impact of that? Well, if you're drinking 3 cups of coffee every morning, you're skipping breakfast, you're drinking 2 diet sodas in the afternoon, that person had a glass of wine at night, but they never drank any water throughout the day. Right. That person is chronically dehydrated, but had 5 fat caffeine drinks, and then alcohol, which dehydrates slightly further in the evening. And they said, I am always lethargic. But then you shared with me that, of course, high amounts of caffeine in dehydrated state over time creates adrenal fatigue. And I'm saying, well, isn't adrenal fatigue's problem lethargy? And you're like, sure is. And I realized that the daily habits were contributing to the symptom. Right. But that person said they had a hormone imbalance. Well, what created that?
Right.
It was those foundational pieces. And that's where I realized that it is a massive equation. That's why holistic medicine looks at the whole, and that is a combination of both proactive and reactive approach, the perspective. So just taking into account something like that. If you're having highly acidic drinks, the effect, you said impact. I did a seminar I went to that was 2.5 hours on just pH imbalance. So someone's drinking 3 cups of coffee in the morning and 2 Diet Cokes, and they have highly acidic levels inside those drinks. So a person may say, I have 5 drinks a day that are carbonated and or coffees. That pH goes so far to the acidic side that the body needs to balance the pH, and it does that by grabbing a base to bring the acid back to neutral, and that base is calcium. And they say, oh, I have osteoporosis. So these 5 drinks on a consistent basis had an effect. Yes, you felt more energy from the caffeines, but you robbed all the calcium out of your bones, and they wonder why they needed knee surgery. Oh, well, the calcium in your knee joint is removed from the ends first, and all of the connective tissue was pulled away. Therefore, the joint breaks down, and the cascade effect of daily habits rolled straight into medical procedures.
Right.
So quality of life says, oh, I can't do those activities. I can't go on that hike. I can't do that item because my knee isn't, I have a bad knee. While they're drinking a Diet Coke telling the story. Right. And it just constantly rolled on from there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how impactful is that?
That's my favorite.
Yes, it's
but,
constant.
But Dr. Pinsky, I'm drinking Diet soda.
That's yes. my favorite. Yes, but it's diet.
It's diet. So
it's the carbonation, guys. It's the carbonation.
So let's talk about it. It's also the acidities. So there's also some things that actually create weight gain and water retention. People don't realize there's a potassium phosphate in there, which actually helps people retain water. And so a lot of those people's weight gain is associated with water, but it also prevents the metabolic stuff from happening, which you know. So let's talk about cost. Okay. Right, because the cost of healthcare is totally out of sight, as you mentioned a little bit. People will tell me the cost of being well is too high versus the cost of being sick. So let's sort of talk about that. I know you have your own little perspective. So let's talk about that.
And in the education world, you could say, well, the cost of education is so high. Try the cost of stupidity. Yeah. So you go into the cost of eating healthy and the cost of good health, habits compared to the cost of disease.
Right.
So financially, the ounce of prevention over the pound of cure not only is cheaper for prevention, right, it's also better for quality of life because that ounce of prevention allowed for quality of life to be a 9.5 right, rather than a 3.5. Right. So not only was the healthcare cost later much more expensive, the cost to your life was more expensive. So cost versus price is in both areas.
Right.
So technically, if you looked at the bad habits, if that person was getting that Starbucks coffee every morning at $5 compared to the nutrient drink they could have had for more energy in the morning mixed in water at $1,
right,
you just saved $4. That the $1.50 diet soda in the afternoon or $2 was $3, and the average American statistically spends $11 a day on energy. whether it be coffees, bag of chips, sodas, whatever that is. Right. They're putting it into a consistent habit that is detrimental to the health, rather than choosing a strategy that is an inexpensive version, replacing those dollars to those dollars. Right. That actually saves you money to go onto a plan. But no, if you haven't researched it, you wouldn't have known that.
Right, and so that's a really great point. Yeah. I think that there's this notion I have to spend a lot of money or I have to make a lot of money in order for me to be healthy, and it's just not true. No. But you have to be cognizant of it. You have to have some homework or somebody like us who can explain those things to you in order to do it. And you and I have been doing this for a long time. Yeah. And the cost of eating out, the cost of eating things that are just not healthy because you don't know how it's prepped is really just astronomical. Yeah. And a person like myself, I don't eat out very much, mostly because I'm paranoid about eating out. Mm-hmm. And I never know how they're going to prep it. And I'm very sensitive to salt intake and things like that. So for me, I will go, but I'm very simplistic about what I get most of the time. And just eliminating certain things, like you said, eliminating soft drinks, for example. Try to add a little bit more in fruits and vegetables. Even just the simplest, changes, if you just avoid the snacky types of foods, and we've told this for years, if you just shop the perimeter of the store. Yeah,
perimeter shopping. Yeah.
Perimeter shopping is the way to go. When you go down the middle of the aisles, that's when you really are in trouble, because that's where all the junk food really lies.
If you have a 9-year shelf life, I'm pretty sure it's got preservatives. So
that's right.
These things happen.
If it has to have a label on it that says "Eat by," you're pretty much in trouble.
Yeah.
So let's kind of sum this up just a little bit.
Okay.
We want you to, we think, if you don't really want to get tested, we understand that, but it does give you some education as to where you are and where you need to be. That testing can be done multiple different places. We have an in-body scale. There are multiple gyms that have an in-body scale. If you have those questions, we can guide you. You can use the information on the bottom of the screen. We'll get that information to you.
Sure.
So I think that's one way to do that. And then, of course, the balance part of it, we always talk about. So why don't we talk about how they can get started? Because I think that's the key.
Yeah. First step in actual process. Testing is how we track and trend.
Right.
So that we're monitoring change and dialing it in a little faster. Right. That's why we like the testing. But the balance step can still be achieved. Mm-hmm. So, the habits we were talking about in the first seminar, the two biggest health habits out there is get 8 hours sleep a night and drink half your body weight in ounces of water per day. Right. Stay fully hydrated. Those two things, 50% of the population immediately reverses the trend.
Right.
Your micronutrition developed with your enzymes, pre and probiotics and different things for gut flora, and then your vitamins and minerals. Enzymes, vitamins, and minerals are micronutrition. It turns out that your body going through proper oxygen loading, which is B vitamins in your system, carries oxygen, proper hydration, proper sleep. These micronutrition balance is how you create homeostasis or true balance, which is you back to your younger years. You can do a health assessment online. That health assessment is free. That health assessment gives you a report. There is a Y button next to every item to tell you the research if you wanted to have a deep dive into why that was provided on the approach. The algorithms are giving you all of the details from all of the nutrition research in Proactive, so that you're getting the priority list in order of the micronutrition. When your body is not reaching or starving and looking for those nutritional items and the cell structure is getting what it needs, it flips a switch and says, I no longer need to keep slowing the metabolism to absorb because I'm still malnourished. One of the things we have statistically in this country is a tremendous amount of calories without nutrition.
Right.
So we are getting calories, but we're not getting the nutrients our body needs. It still lowers metabolism to look for it. So if you fix your efficiency and take that assessment to get the exact plan you're supposed to be doing based on all the latest research, which is an ebb and flow. It's constantly evolving as the industry does. So does the algorithms. They keep tweaking the numbers for you. You can go straight to it and get the assessment. From that, you know where to start. Then we'll talk more about like the nutrition protocol. What would you eat with that so the body responds exponentially?
Right, so that's a little teaser for you, because this is a continuing series about weight management, aging appropriately, how we can slow down the aging process. And so Mark's a part of all that seminars, as we mentioned in the very, very early beginning. One of the reasons I love this so much is because it is based on science. And you and I have talked about that for as long as I know you. I am a big science guy, and I think that separates us from the people who wheel the cart through the town. Anybody can sell you anything at any time, but it has to be based on good hardcore science. And if you click that Y button, part of the reason I love it so much is it will give you the source of information, exactly where their recommendations come from, not based on their thought process, but based on actual real science, which you can't really find very many places in this life. So way better than going and buying things on a whim where you really don't know. This way, it's been honed in for you exactly what you really need to jumpstart that metabolic rate, as Mark was
And I'm
talking
not a dietitian, nutritionist, or doctor. You are a doctor, of course, but there's experts in that field, but all of that expert research is built into it, so we don't have to play that role. Let the experts be the experts. Put in who you are, and there's nobody on the planet that's different than you. And remember, there's 8 billion people on the planet. But you have to realize that proactive, reactive effect. I mean, that if you don't start with your process, you may be on someone else's best plan. Don't do that to yourself. I mean, think about the strategies now. I mean, what is the United States at? 4% of the world population living here, but 50% of all prescription drugs are sold to Americans. That's a very wrong imbalance in my eyes.
I agree.
We should be well, not managing sickness.
I totally agree. And of course, that's been the focus of Pinsky Family and Sports Medicine Center for the last 20 years since I came here to Brevard County. And now we're just stepping it up, not a little bit, we're stepping it up a lot with a weight loss program that's soon to be launched here. You'll hear about it here on the Doctor's Corner. We're going to have Dr. Craig Premack on, who's the creator and inventor of the program. And I think that this is really just the beginning of where we're going to go with this. We want to really take people and get them healthy and get them to be invested in their own life so that they don't have to creep through life, but they can really thrive through life. So once again, for Mark McCoy, I am Dr. Mark Pinsky. You've been watching the Doctor's Corner. Thank you so much.